You're listening to Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill Gaming Podcast. Here's your host, John Wall.
It's December 12th, 2024, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill video game podcast. My name is John Wall, and every Thursday morning I bring you my video game impressions, the latest industry news, and tales of a Gen X geek, delivered to you in 15 minutes, or your next podcast is free. To make sure that you never miss an episode, you can subscribe to the show on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And it would be wonderful if you left a review while you're there. Thank you so much for tuning in today. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about the rise of the Golden Idol. But first, let's check out some of the week's news over at VGC. And according to a new report from Bloomberg, publishers are going to wait as long as they possibly can to announce their 2025 release dates to avoid going up against Grand Theft Auto 6, which according to Take-Two is still slated to be released fall of next year. This proves that GTA is an absolutely unmatched behemoth in the industry, with GTA 5 having sold over 200 million copies, which is just ridiculous. That is an insane number. Some of the big games hoping to avoid getting steamrolled by GTA 6 are Fable, Ghost of Yotai, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, which I still can't believe is the real name of that game, Marvel 1943, and whatever games Nintendo has lined up for the Switch 2. So we'll see which games blink first, probably early next year. And go check out VGC for more gaming news. The best kind of puzzle games, in my opinion, are the ones that make you feel really smart when you figure something out or solve a puzzle. Games like Botany Manor from earlier this year, or The Witness from a few years back. That game was amazing at that. It's so satisfying to bang your head against a difficult puzzle before having that, aha moment where it all just falls into place. The Rise of the Golden Idol is the sequel to 2022's Case of the Golden Idol, and it hits that sweet spot of being a really good challenge and making me feel like a genius. Until the end of the game, when it made me feel like a complete idiot, which admittedly isn't all that tough to do. If you aren't familiar with the original, this is kind of how it works. The game is broken down into scenes with 3 or 4 scenes in each chapter. These scenes are snapshots of a moment that you need to study in order to explain what exactly happened in them, what is going on. They're mostly still moments, but they are slightly animated, kind of like motion comic style. There will be little glowy exclamation marks on certain people or objects, which means that you can examine them. And once you look at those, a number of words will move into a box at the bottom of the screen. For instance, you might examine a dead body with a name tag that says Doug on it. There's no Doug in this game, I think. And there's a gun laying next to him. So the words Doug and gun would move into that box. So to solve the scene, you're given a script with most of the words missing. And you need to drag words from that box and fill in the blanks to describe accurately what happened in the scene. Once you get all the words correct, you complete the puzzle. But it's much trickier than that. In each scene, you can be given up to 4 or even 5 objectives to complete, including that final script page to solve it. And the first one you usually need to do is to identify everybody that's in the scene, dragging their names from that word box next to a page that's got pictures of all their faces. And it often takes a bit of detective work to figure out, who's who. One person might be having a conversation where, let's say, she mentions that she got into an altercation with someone named Phil. And by studying the scene, you notice somebody else who has a black eye. Maybe that's Phil. Maybe not. It's really an exercise in paying close attention to each piece of text or words spoken by a character and looking closely at the environment to notice little things that just might be clues. Some scenes are pretty straightforward, while others can have over a dozen different characters and 3 different screens to flip through and sort everything out. It's honestly one of the most clever and satisfying puzzle game concepts I've ever played. When you stare at a scene for 10 minutes, just trying to figure it all out, and then all of a sudden you notice something seemingly insignificant that makes everything just fit together, that's a great feeling. Story-wise, the game takes place in the 1970s version of their fictional world, jumping forward quite a bit from the 18th century setting of the original game. That game told the story of a powerful supernatural relic that caused chaos wherever it appeared. And the sequel tells a very similar tale of great power being misused by those who don't understand it. It's not a direct continuation of that story from the first game, but there are threads that connect them. And all of the scenes are presented to you out of sequence, meaning that it's unclear at first when you're completing a scene where in the timeline it fits. The game also does a good job of throwing in little twists to make things more challenging, like in one scene you're flipping back and forth between 2 different moments of the same space, like about 10 minutes apart, one with all the lights on and one in the dark after the power has been cut. So you might have figured out who everyone is in the first page, but then you need to figure out where everyone is when they're just silhouettes. Or in another scene, their faces are obscured, so you need to look at things like body markings, hair length, and their height. It really kept the puzzles fresh and interesting throughout the entire game, that they would constantly have these little bit of twists on the formula. Throughout most of the game, I think it lands right in that sweet spot as far as difficulty goes. It's definitely a challenge, for sure, and most of the time in a good, satisfying way. But there were also times, not too many, but a few, when there was just so much to keep track of that I would get confused. Now, granted, I can get confused just going to the grocery store. My mind isn't quite as sharp as it was 20 years ago, but I do think a couple of the puzzles go a little bit beyond just tricky. Unfortunately, that confusion just snowballs the further into the game you get. At first, I think I had a good handle on, who everyone was in this story and what was going on. But by the end, I was pretty thoroughly lost. Part of the problem is that out-of-sequence storytelling, and part of it is that there are so many characters introduced by the end of this, and several of them have aliases. So you not only have to keep track of who is who, but also when they were who. I think I could have dealt with, the complicated plot without the scrambled storytelling, the scrambled timeline rather, or vice versa. But together it was just a bit much. By the final chapter, I had to just kind of brute force my way through a few of the puzzles just by using trial and error. And that's not the way you want to play one of these games. Aside from those few moments, though, where things get kind of convoluted, which may or may not be a result of my own mental capacity. The Rise of the Golden Idol is a fantastic puzzle game with an interesting story. It also has a great art style, which I think I would describe as beautifully ugly. It's a great game to chip away at, doing one or two puzzles at the end of the night just to unwind. And it's also a great game to play with a spouse or someone else sitting on the couch together with you. Christina and I figured out a lot of the clues together. Developer Color Gray Games has really hit on a great formula, and I hope we get a steady release of new content to keep me coming back for a while. It's also a great brain exercise. I think it might help me to fight off the Alzheimer's. So recently I've been doing most of my gaming up in the living room instead of my gaming room in the basement, just for a change of scenery, the Christmas tree's up there. The one issue with that, though, is that I live in a pretty modest-sized home built in 1950, so there's not a lot of distance between the living room and the two bedrooms on the main floor. So say when my wife goes to bed at about 9 o'clock and I want to do a little gaming, it's hard not to make too much noise. So I needed a headset. I don't do any gaming that would require voice chat or anything, so just a nice quality pair of wireless headphones that would work on both the Xbox and the PS5. Thankfully, my good friends at Turtle Beach had just the thing for me and sent me a pair of the Stealth 700s, and they have been pretty fantastic. So it actually comes with two USB transmitters so that you can use it on both the Xbox and PlayStation, which is super nice. It's really easy to switch back and forth between them. It has the softest, most comfortable cushions I think I've ever felt on a headset. I think it might be memory foam. It's got a long-lasting battery, which it says can go up to 80 hours, which to me feels like a really long time for a headset. That's going to last me a while. And it has really, really nice sounding audio. It does obviously have, a mic for those of you who play multiplayer games, and I'm guessing that's probably high quality too based on everything else. But for me, I'm happy that it tucks up very nicely against the headset and it doesn't feel like it's, sticking out in front of my face like a sore thumb. Really, for me, this has like everything I would want in a headset. Long-lasting battery, super comfortable fit that won't leave me sore after a long gaming session, and like I said, really high-quality audio. And I no longer piss off my wife with the sound of my gaming while she's trying to sleep. So everybody wins. Thank you again to Turtle Beach for sending these over, and you should go check out the Stealth 700s if you're in the market for a high-end headset. Before we go this week, I'm sending positive vibes out to all of the Game Awards nominees. I've already made clear before the issues I have with the show. I don't think it's a particularly good representation of the industry, but I also know that winning one of these awards can be a big deal to a game studio, especially small studios trying to make a name for themselves. And this year, the nominees for Best Independent Game are Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. I've really enjoyed the ones in that category that I've played. I've played a few of them, and I've heard great things about the others. So congratulations and good luck to them and to all the nominees tonight. Thank you so much for listening to Midlife SideQuest. I appreciate you making time in your day to hang out with me. You can catch new episodes of the show Thursday mornings wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review while you're there. You can also find me on Blue Sky or Threads by searching for Midlife SideQuest. So until next time, be well and happy gaming.